initiate change. You do something. You take steps to do something. Now, we're not going to go through the old forms of theft, the dumpster diving and the shredding and the mail theft, because you have all heard that. We're going to talk about the bullseye. We're going to move to the bullseye. I love the phrase aim and fire. I want you looking at the highest return on investment items from a protection standpoint. You don't have to do everything. None of us has time to do everything. It exhausts us when we try and do everything, so do the smart things that take you 80 or 90% of the way, and you're going to be safer than everybody else around there. There are 4 levels of the bullseye that I want to run through. Human element, mobile devices, the cloud, and social media. We're not going to get through all of them today, so I'm going to get you materials on the other stuff so that you have it. The human element we've already talked about a bit. Hogwash and con job are fully aimed at that human factor. And the human factor is always the weakest link. It's us making decisions. So instead of the human side, we're going to move right into mobile devices. Mobile devices have changed the rules on everything. And strangely enough, even though they have changed the rules, the #1 risk with mobile devices is physical theft. It's sitting at the Starbucks on the table. When my business went out, we had about 5,000 square feet on the bottom floor that this computer company ran from. And a Starbucks went in. And so now, and I work upstairs now. I'm out of that whole business. It's gone. I work upstairs and I go downstairs to write. It's kind of my third place or whatever they call it. And I'm down there writing, and all the time I see people wander off with their stuff sitting on the table. So the other day, now it was probably 6 months ago now, I'm sitting there and a gentleman walks off. I can tell he's going to the bathroom, so I film him. Minute and 47 seconds, he's gone. I could have done anything I wanted, including his login was probably still live because he didn't have password protection in 15 seconds or whatever it was. So I walked over, as I'm filming, I walked over. My father happened to be next to me. He works still in the speaking business. And I'm walking over and I'm filming, and I look down and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to use this video because on the desk, on the table, along with the laptop and an iPad and an iPhone was a client file for a defense contractor that said confidential. That's not owning your eye. It wasn't his data, but you know what? It was somebody else's, and it always is. Someday it's going to be yours. That's why you have to own not just your eye, but whoever's you handle every day, your kids, your coworkers, your members, your clients. Everything has changed in the mobile world. What is the difference between this IBM 360 and this? Size. What else? Convenience. Yeah, you can't take the 360 with you to Starbucks. You can make phone calls. What else? It's more accessible. It's also more powerful. That iPhone, 100 times more powerful than that IBM 360. We think of it as a telephone. It is actually a computer that happens to make calls. It is no longer a telephone. It has the convenience of making calls. It is a full-fledged, totally on, always there, always connected computer. It has all changed. So let's have an example of this whole mobile phenomenon. Sniffing. Sniffing. You go into your cafe, your airport, your conference or hotel room. You use the free Wi-Fi. As you're using it, there are sniffers. Sniffers are people who sit there with the same equipment you have, which is a networking card, and a little piece of software like Firesheep or whatever free software they've downloaded, and they watch everything that you send over the free connection. When you are surfing on a free connection, what is free is your data. They can see it all. So we sit upstairs in our offices. We turn on Firesheep because we want to see who's unprotected downstairs, and we watch people send information across constantly. What are my options? simple option. It's called tethering. Tethering is where you tell your cell phone carrier, Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, hey, I'll pay you $15 a month. I want to tether my phone to my iPad, my phone to my laptop. I want to use that connection on my phone to get to the internet in case I'm doing anything sensitive. It costs a little bit, but it's totally encrypted. It's safe because your phone calls are safe, not from China or the US government, but from 99.9% of people who would want it. It stops the sniffers. When you walk in and you're thinking, I'm going to use this free Wi-Fi to send email or do work or anything that's sensitive, I want you to feel the dog's nose. I want you to feel that wet, gross feeling, because that's what's happening. Somebody is there sniffing you. I guarantee it. At any busy cafe, any busy airport, I can watch the people who are sniffing. There's software that shows you who's sniffing. Simple. Tethering solves it. The overall concept here is called poser. Poser, you're exposing posers. It's the path of slightly elevated resistance. You know that the criminals take the path of least resistance, right? They go to the easiest mark if you're a spy. When you create a slightly elevated path, when everybody around you has farmland that's low and you have a hill and there's a flood, it's the low that gets destroyed. When you have built yourself up one step at a time, you've elevated your resistance tiny bits, you're no longer low. They go next door. Good example, call-in passwords on smartphones. We're going very quickly through this. I'm going to send you a totally free copy of my book, Smartphone Survival Guide. It's a little booklet on all of this because we don't have time to cover it like I need to, and this isn't in my regular book. So I will get it all to you for free. Call-in password. Enable the passcode. We have these computers. 60% of Americans, just came out 2 weeks ago, don't have a passcode on it. It's a computer. There's no password. It has more contact data on it, on average, than a computer does, other than the fact that you back it up in iTunes or whatever service you use. Just as powerful. Remote tracking and remote wiping. Two capabilities that the average person doesn't know exist on their smartphone. You can, if it's lost, your phone is lost, you go online, it's got a GPS, if you've set it up, hey, my phone's at the house, I don't have to worry about it. Oh, my phone's traveling east at 40 miles an hour. Bing! You hit the button that wipes it out. It's called remote wipe. All smartphones have it, either natively like the iPhone, or you can put an app on, BlackBerry, Android, Windows. Simple, cheap, very effective, very good business solution if that mobileware goes missing. There are black belt items. I do this when I do a full training for a company that's a long-time training on, if it's a mobile workforce, we go through belt levels because you do what's first, you earn that, and second and third, by the time you get to the fourth or fifth belt level, there's not anybody getting in other than rogue governments. So two guys are fishing. They finished their fishing. They're in Alaska. They're sitting down. They've got a basket of fish in front of them, and a bear starts charging. It smells the fish. It sees them. It starts charging. The one guy who's just taken his waders off starts tying his tennis shoes up. The other guy looks at him thinking, you're supposed to drop dead and play dead. Says to him, what in the world are you doing? You're never going to outrun the bear. And he says, of course, I don't have to outrun the bear. I have to outrun you. Right? That's the path of slightly elevated resistance. You don't have to be the fastest, you just have to be ahead of the person next to you. That is the reality. When you take these steps, when you take one step today, you're safer than the other guy who gets downed by the bear. That's how it works. The cloud. Going to go very quickly through the cloud. You guys know what the cloud is? The cloud is when you compute someplace else. It's not on your servers, not on your computer. If you use Gmail, Facebook, Google Docs, Dropbox, Salesforce, any of those, you're in the cloud. The cloud will win. It's too scalable, it's too powerful, it's redundant, it has all the advantages of corporate software and we get to use it personally. The cloud will win. However, there's all kinds of downsides. There are cons to the cloud, lists of them, but it all boils down to this. Power which is the good side. It's got a lot of computing power, versus ownership. When you compute in the cloud, you don't own it. The agreement may say you own it, but the minute the company goes bankrupt, gets sold internationally, goes across borders, your assets, your information assets, are sold to somebody else. You do not have control of it. There are not laws about this yet. It's so young. The saying used to be possession is 9/10 of the law. In the cloud, possession is 10/10 of the law. You have the data, you get to use it. That's how it works. Social media. Social media. I was speaking at an event for the Pentagon at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I followed Susie Orman, and I tell you that only to impress you. And because she had just made an offhanded comment, I don't think she really meant it, about social media and how it was just, you know, it's the area of the young or whatever. It kind of dismissed it. Of course, this is 20-year-old, 19-year-old soldiers sitting in front of her. And so I come on after that, about to talk for an hour alone on social media. And so I did it, and I talked about it, and a gentleman came up to me afterwards in a wheelchair. He was a wounded warrior, which is mostly what you have at Walter Reed. No legs, wheelchair, rolls up to me, and he said, I just want to thank you for changing our default thinking here about social media. While people think it's, you know, not important, 30% of all viruses are downloaded on it. It's a major tool for social engineering, as you talked about. And you need to know that my wife tweeted my troop location, and that's how I lost my legs. It was not even intercepted, it was public. Those tweets were being monitored for soldiers. They always are monitored. Every tweet is monitored. And it was used to place a roadside bomb. Change your defaults of how you think about this. You may not like social media. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't use it a ton, except for business purposes. You got to change your default thinking. And changing your defaults means customizing your settings. In this case, 90 minutes. If you haven't spent 90 minutes customizing your settings, your privacy, your security, looking at what options they give you, you can't blame Facebook, you can't blame anybody because you haven't done your job, you haven't owned your eye. Not yet. When you've spent 90 minutes with your kids, that's the most effective because that's who we care about the most. Once we do that, we're like, God, I got to do that to mine. Once you do that, yeah, then you're safe. Then you can decide, you know, this platform is not for me. It's giving away too much information. But until you've spent the 90 minutes changing your defaults, you cannot complain. Your privacy is Facebook's inventory. That is what they are selling. Your private data, it's so valuable. I want to know that you're 38, that this is where you shop, this is the movies you like, this is your friend base, because I'm going to advertise to them too. Great information for selling. Your profile is public. It's permanent. It's exploitable. No matter how private you think it is, if it's online in some way, whether you run for office or are applying to a college or whatever, it's probably in some way public. It's permanent. It's retweeted, it's screenshot, it's copied, it's backed up instantly. It's always there forever. Digital DNA does not go away. Storage is too cheap. And it's exploitable. It's exploitable by identity thieves, by stalkers, by ex-spouses, spies, whatever it is. It's a small percentage, tiny percentage. But if you use it smartly, it's really small. I don't stop using social media. I use it thinking through some of these issues before I put something up. Would my grandmother be okay with it? Would my worst enemy be able to use this? Would my big competitor in the business benefit from knowing this knowledge? Simple, simple questions. I call it a conscience panel that you can go through. Change your defaults about all of this. Change the way you're thinking about it. Get out of the comfortable ways of thinking and realize mobile and social is changing it all. What you thought before doesn't exist anymore. The sooner you get over that and recognize it, even if you're not a huge user of it, the better off you're going to be. Those are some of the defaults to change. I'll send you those as well in Facebook. Those are kind of a prioritized list of what you need to do. Tons of information here. I know we've flown through it. You're reeling from it. I'm reeling from it. I want to get as many ideas out there because there are other resources. I want to get you those resources. If you want further details on all of this, if you want the free smartphone survival guide, if you want a checklist of all these things you need to do in case you can't or don't want to buy a book at some point or don't have another resource, fill out the feedback form. Tell me how I did. Tell me what I can improve on, what I should talk about next time, what you'd like to hear in a future session. Give me a little bit more of your information and hand it to me. Yeah! Hogwash, you passed. Now here's the funny thing, I do want your information. That's why I'm giving all kinds of free stuff. Here's why I want it. I want to send you more information than I can carry here. I want it electronic because it's cheaper for me to produce electronically than it is to bring physical copies. I also want it because I want to send you a newsletter that updates you a little bit, that you can always opt out of, but I want to send you updates on this topic. It's your choice. You don't have to give it. You obviously had the reflex. The laughter was your hogwash, right? It was your instinct. Hang on, it's no longer okay to give away my information. You move, then you would move to questions. Well, why do you need it? How much do you need? Do you need everything? No, I need your name and your email. That's it. I don't need your address. I don't need your fax number. I don't need your phone number. I need 2 pieces of information to get you what I'm promising you, right? Essentially, what you've done is you've initiated a path of slightly elevated resistance. I'm not giving it all, I'm giving a portion of it. That's a poser. That's a poser move. You got to own the I, right? You all got it here. When you walk out, you have to get it as well.
Partners Federal Credit Union is federally insured by the National Credit Union Administration.